Matt, do you want your Twitter on there at all? Or no? Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone to our webinar, CS First Hour of Code Teacher Sneak Preview, Gumball's Coding Adventure. We are going to get started in just a moment. So please come on in. If you're new to YouTube Live, you'll see a nice back channel chat on the right-hand side in YouTube, just like this. And look we already have people showing up. Hey, Dawn. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Chris. Awesome. We are going to get started in a moment, but as we wait for everyone to trickle in, go ahead and say hi, where you're from, and maybe what you do. What your job role is in education. You can also download the slides, you can access the slides, edtech.team/gumballcode. That'll give you these very slides to check out while our presenters are sharing today. And I also put up the episode download. I know we have a lot of international folks joining us today, so you can download the episode at edtech.team/gumball-episode. So I'll leave this up just for about 30 more seconds and we'll get going. Awesome, from New York. Hey, Jesse. Hey, Jackie. From Virginia, Mary in Alaska. We've got Christina from California. Welcome, everybody. Yep, come on in, share where you're from, share what your job role is, and we'll get going here in just a moment. Welcome from Arizona. And we've got, for our two presenters, we've got 5th grade teachers, we've got tech support specialists, we've got technology integration specialists, so all sorts of different job roles coming in today. Scott, info lit specialist, so very, very cool to see different job roles rolling in today, everyone. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming, everyone. My name's Wendy Gorton, and I'm super thrilled to be joined today by two very awesome Googlers who are going to take us into this world of not only CS First, but Cartoon Network's Gumball, which if you haven't watched it before is really funny and really engaging for sure. This is a YouTube Live event hosted by EdTechTeam and me. And I'm really excited to introduce you to Jennifer Barth, the program manager for CS First Outreach. Jennifer is currently working in Los Angeles, so I saw quite a few LA-based people. And if you're in our community in EdTechTeam, Jennifer's in there and always getting the LA community involved in coding, so she's someone to add to your network for sure. But she currently promotes K-12 computer science education initiatives like Google CS First. And her focus is developing global outreach. So this is perfect for helping scale coding across the world with students and teachers. Thanks for joining us, Jennifer. And we also have Matt Dawson with us today. And Matt, like a lot of you, was a former 4th and 5th grade teacher with a BS and MS in education. And now at Google, he works to ensure that all students have access to high quality, equitable computer science education. So always awesome, Matt, to see education roles at Google for sure. So we're thrilled to have you. I'm going to stop talking here in just a moment and let you guys get going with this great program. But I did want to share quickly today for Matt and Jennifer. I'm so excited that we have so many newbies to coding, and I think CS First is a really great way to get both you as a teacher and your students involved in coding. And particularly today's sneak peek is so accessible, and we hope that everyone can leave and get their kids involved in this program right away. So you can see here, but we do also have a few rock stars too who have been doing this a lot. So we hope you share in the back channel on YouTube Live any tips or tricks you have. If you put in if you put in any links or anything like that, we'd be happy to use those and share those as well. We're also going to give away a copy of If I Were a Wizard by Paul Hamilton from EdTechTeam Press, which is a really fun coding adventure that lets kids see what's possible with coding. And then we're giving away a Raspberry Pi as well. So we're choosing that from everyone in the chat. So make sure that you're in there and introducing yourselves so that we can pick a couple people at the very end to get these fun coding goodies for sure. And don't forget to follow us at EdTechTeam on Twitter as well. All right, guys, Jennifer, Matt, take it away. Excited to learn more about this.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name's Jennifer, and I'm an Outreach Program Manager. And of course, I have my colleague, Matt Dawson. I sit in Los Angeles. Matt sits in South Carolina, right outside of Charleston. We're really excited to share a lot of what we've been doing with CS First and what we're going to be doing again. I'm going to jump into slides right away, so if you'll give me 1 second, and I'll go and share here, and we'll get started. All right, here we go. There we go. Okay. Is everyone seeing my slides? I think so. All right. We're going to jump ahead just a little bit here. Let's see where we can go from here. Okay, great. And let's see, are we advancing? Yeah, we are. Good deal. All right. So a couple of things that I wanted to share is just a quick overview that we're going to do here. And I just lost my speaker notes. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Just lost them. There we go. What I was going to say is we're going to do a quick agenda here so you kind of get an idea. We're going to go over CS First for those who've never heard of it before. I'm not going to take that much time. There are other resources we can give you about that, but I know there are a couple of questions around that. So I want to give you that. Then we're really going to dig into why Google CS First decided to do this partnership with a major big brand like Cartoon Network. We're going to look at the sneak peek into Gumball's amazing adventure, and Matt is going to, I'm going to pepper Matt with some questions around the creation of this content, and also be aware Matt actually has helped develop all of our Google CS First content, so we'll be going to him for the general questions and then for digging in for Gumball in particular. And then last, we'll look at our code and how teachers can get involved, and then we'll hopefully have some time for some Q&A. Okay. So when we're looking at Google CS First, we're looking at ways in which kids can get involved. And let's see, is my slide advancing? There we go. And what we're really concerned about is making sure that when we're looking at computer science, we want students to know that it's about creation and design of computer programs through logistical instructions versus just using or playing. And so we really want kids to know that through their creativity and coding, there are ways that they can make something happen, create efficiency, save time, etc. You'll look on the left there, right? We do say computer science is creating, and you'll notice that the language we're using is Scratch, and that's actually the block coding format that Google CS First partners with. And Matt can speak to reasons later on if you have questions of why we chose Scratch and why we really think it's a great starting point. But it is our suggestion for getting kids and teachers involved who don't have computer science and coding experience. It's a great way to get started. So the key objectives that we have focused on when building CS First. Courage to try new things. Absolutely. We want kids to feel like that they are confident around computers and that they can do anything. We don't want them to feel like they are failing and can't do this. We want them to persevere and tackle difficult problems. And speaking of failure, it's a great way for kids to realize that through failure, you're actually learning and that there are great ways to succeed later on. So we actually encourage failing at times and let them know it's okay. We want them to have an impact in their communities and in careers, and we know computer science can have that for students. So we take an opportunity in all of our CS First lessons to show kids how that particular computer science principle is used in the real world to help and make our lives better and more entertaining at times. Or if there's a career choice within a particular area, we try to feature that. We really want kids to be able to connect with that. Finally, we want them to have a sense of belonging, and we've really taken a lot of time to target underrepresented students and underserved students, and that's one, why CS First is completely free, and two, one of our main goals, and it's one of Google's overall goals in diversity, is to focus on girls, Latinos, and African Americans and try to get them interested, because we know that they're not getting enough exposure to computer science and coding. We want to be able to inspire that. So when you look at our content in the large format and you visit csfirst.com, you'll see these different themed clubs, as we call them. And we call them clubs because in the original format and vision for CS First, we thought it would just be an after-school type of program that would be additional enrichment. And only in the last 18 months did we see teachers adopting CS First and implementing it into the classroom. In fact, 40% of our users now are using it in the classroom. And it's because there is a lot of flexibility to do that. So we're thrilled with that. We just now know there are lots of different ways where CS First can fit into the school day, after school programs, homeschools, churches, community centers, summer camp programs, and all those types of things. We do have different themes. They are varying levels of difficulty, excuse me, but we hope that there's something for everyone to get involved with. We actually have a 9th theme. We don't have it present here. It is animation, and we really think that's exciting. So if your students are progressing through the content, it's a really great way for them to even go above and beyond and push the boundaries. So we feel like when we've targeted this content to 4th through 8th graders, we can actually push it to the limits for even 9th graders or 10th graders if they'd like to get into that before they get into serious text coding and other languages. We have 8 themes. Each theme has 8 projects. Each project takes about an hour and 15 minutes to complete, along with the video tutorials. So we've got about 80 hours of regular content here. And again, we do have that 9th theme, which also has 8 activities. Now, and we're going to dive into it in a few minutes, you'll see we have 2 standalone activities for Hour of Code. So that's an additional 2 hours of experience and introduction for students. So what's it look like in the day of a life of a particular project? We're using this format so you'll start seeing it and becoming familiar with it. These circles represent videos. We have video tutorials that we've created. In fact, Matt helped write a lot of the scripts for them and shooting some. You might actually see Matt's image teaching some of the classes in these video tutorials when you have them in your classroom. We have an intro every day that announces the computer science principle and the lesson for that day. We also want to make sure students know that it's the theme and the 4th day or the 3rd day for whatever club they're supposed to be in. So it kind of grounds the students and pulls everyone together, gets them focused for the day. Then they watch 2 to 3 videos that will develop the core project in step-by-step formation. Once they're watching these videos, they'll toggle over to Scratch from the website, and they'll do a few steps of the project in Scratch, go back and watch the next video, and toggle back and forth between the video tutorials on our site and the Scratch site. Finally, we have add-ons for those students that get past that core project and want to work at an individual pace and are excelling. We have some terrific add-ons at the end of every lesson. In the regular lessons, you'll see about 6 add-ons for each project, which lets them embellish and kind of add them all together. There have been times when I've hosted and I've even said, hey, I challenge you to put all the add-ons into one project, or to do something that was inspired by an add-on but may not be there. But really letting kids explore and go as far as they can with coding. The last thing we do, and it's actually my favorite thing, we do a wrap-up video, and each wrap-up is, again, showing that principle that they've learned that day in a real life scenario, so they really can connect that what they're learning actually is impactful to our communities and in our worlds today. And even more importantly, if we can show them a career choice, it's pretty incredible to see the light bulbs go off. If you're in fashion and design and you're a girl or a boy and you see someone who's a designer that's using coding to create a particular fabric and watch the flow and everything, all of a sudden, you know, think, wow, I'm having fun and I could have a job and get paid. And it's just pretty exciting to see it from that standpoint. So what do you need to start any of these clubs? Well, for the only thing that Google asks you to have is a room with sustainable Wi-Fi and 1 computer per student. We can't work on tablets right now because of the integration with Scratch. Laptops work just fine, Chromebooks, what have you, but desktop computer or laptop. We do encourage headphones or earbuds if you can have them for individualized learning. But we have many teachers that have adapted the content, and they'll watch the video as a class at the front and then work individually on the projects back and forth. So whatever works for you and however you would like to do that, that's totally possible. We also encourage teachers to bring in additional hosts or parents to help supervise and facilitate the club. And we find that that's really easy to do, even as a parent, and I'm a non-tech parent. I do not come from technical background, but I found that it's pretty easy as long as I have the supplied materials that CS First gives me, which is the lesson plans and solution sheets. And it's just a great way for everyone to learn together. Students actually have enjoyed it at times when someone who may not know about computer science is the adult in the room and the student is teaching them. It's a great way to learn together and to give those students a lot of encouragement. What we provide from Google, for all of our full themes, you can go on our site. When you set up your club, you'll be given the opportunity to request printed materials for all US-based locations. Unfortunately, we don't have those available for international right now, but if that changes, we'll let you know. So for now, if you're in the US, you can order materials. You get a set of 30 student materials, including what we call a passport, which is a page for each day. That's the number 4 icon there, and it lets the student kind of know what they're being taught that day. They can jot down notes. They earn stickers, and we know kids love stickers, so they can earn a sticker for that day. We also provide certificates for teachers or assemblies to award and recognize students at the end of their club. For teachers, we provide a hard copy club roster. We have an online tool that allows you to add in student names as well, and we'll talk about that feature a little bit if anyone has questions about it. As I mentioned, we have those solution sheets where you can kind of see under number 6 the blocks laid out step by step. We do have lesson plans, and that lesson plan is online. You can review it ahead of time or print it up, but it is an actual script that starts out with, "Hi, my name is Mrs. or Mr. Blank," and it goes from there. So we're really giving you every tool. Obviously, a lot of teachers don't need to go to that nth degree, but sometimes they do, and we just want to be able to give that opportunity to them. We've got some marketing materials. You can hang it around school, post up something that we call a community board. You'll see it up there. It's actually a printed board. It's not a social media board, but we allow kids and encourage kids lots of times with Post-its to write something nice, something they learned that day, or shout out, as we call it, to one of their friends, and they'll put those Post-its up and they can save them at the end of the club day, or kind of save them at the end of the entire club of all 8 days. The flexibility is there for timing and scheduling, so we can talk about that a little bit more, but that'll give you the overview of what all of CS First is. So for now, let's jump into Hour of Code. And what I love about Hour of Code is its ability to give a taste of what's to come, but then hopefully there's the inspiration to go beyond that. And when Google CS First started out 2.5 years, Matt, are we 2.5 years in now? Ish, 3?
I think we're probably 2.5, 3.
2.5 to 3 years ago. Okay, so I joined, I'll give you the kind of basis. I joined Google CS First team in January of 2015, and I think we rolled over 11,000 students then. Last December, we rolled over 100,000 students, and in December last year, we launched our first standalone activity called the Adventure on High Seas. It was a typical CS First project that actually, I think Matt was one of our creators back then, working on those lesson plans and the videos and the Scratch project, which we actually build. I think Matt actually helped build that for those remixes and those starter project steps. And we were really excited about that. We saw the functionality of just having that one intro for kids, but it wasn't really working for teachers. So we knew we wanted to work and be able to give some encouragement there. And we were also looking like, all right, we went from 10,000 to 100,000. All right, our next big goal is to get to 1 million. Well, what do we do to do that? Well, Cartoon Network actually came to us because they have a goal to create inspirational coding and STEAM creativity and curiosity among their audience. Now, their audience is 370 million homes across the world. So for us, we just saw the immediate common goals of, hey, they want to inspire creativity with coding. They want to let kids see what's out there, especially those kids who traditionally may not be inspired to look into coding and look at computer science and STEAM initiatives. We knew they had a big audience that was going to help us scale. And we loved the fact that we could help inspire creativity with coding and also be able to connect kids with content that they already love. So that was really important for us. And we just thought it was a great fit. So we started exploring with Cartoon Network and came up with the Gumball program here. And so this is on the left side. You'll see what it looks like. This is actually viewing one of the video tutorials. We're going to take a look at it, and then we're going to actually look at one of the student projects that someone's already discovered on the code.org site and started building. But Matt, I want to turn it over to you for a few minutes so you can answer a few questions for us about a couple of the things that I think folks might like to know generally about CS first, and then also in particular with the Gumball adventure. And first and foremost, let me jump in here and let's see if I can find my notes. Where did they go? I might have to go out of presenter view for just a moment. Hang with me.
No problem, Jennifer. Really great. And the back channel, thanks for Jennifer and Matt. I've put the back channel here, but all sorts of really great examples being shared of how it's being used. Great questions, guys. Keep the questions coming. We'll answer them all at the end. Yep. But if you came late, this presentation is publicly viewable. edtech.team /gumballcode1. We had to add the 1 for a public copy, so /gumballcode1. But okay, awesome.
Matt, I think some of the questions that I pulled, and actually some are from the spreadsheet when folks RSVP'd, that I'd love to talk about is, how do you determine if the content and creating the lesson plans with Scratch modules? Like, how did you, and Matt is one of our original fellows that, piloted, tested all different things, but can you kind of explain how Google CS First came to be?
Yeah, sure. So when we first started, we went out and we did a lot of testing in schools. So we're based in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, which is outside of Charleston. And we went all around the community for a few months, and we tried out all sorts of different programs. And we arrived at Scratch as one that we thought was the most engaging for students. We had all sorts of measures for it. We decided to use a blended learning model, which are where the videos come in. Like, it releases teachers from being responsible for knowing all of the content. And it lets teachers really focus with working on students one-on-one rather than having to stand at the front of the classroom and teach. And so with Gumball's coding adventure, one thing that we wanted to focus on was storytelling. And the reason for that is because we recognize that teachers don't necessarily have an hour for the hour of code. They might have 30 minutes, they might have 40 minutes. And with a story, students can really build only a piece of a story and still be successful. If it were a game, you'd have to build the whole game to get to the end and have a working project. But with a story, you can build, maybe you get 2-3 videos in 30 minutes and have to stop. The student can still feel like they were successful in building that project.
And also, we should emphasize, once students have gone in and done a project, and if they have a username and password, or even if they don't, they can go back and add to that project later. It's always there because it's a free open source curriculum that's online. So we do encourage that. Hey, Matt, something that I thought was a really interesting question, besides the actual coding skills, what are the other skills students learn? But to that end, maybe you could give us a few examples of the types of coding skills and tools that we're teaching as introductory concepts.
Specifically with Gumball?
With Gumball, and Wendy, if you see anyone asking for our broader skill sets, we can talk about that too, or save it for Q&A at the end.
Sure. So like I mentioned, Gumball is built around the idea of telling a story. And one of the first things the students do is they set up the narrative elements for their story. So they select the setting, which are these Gumball backdrops that are all centered around the school. And then they select 2 characters. And we've given them a piece of the plot, which is where there's this glitch happening and the characters have to be able to explain it. And by sort of constraining what students are asked to do, it sort of lends to them coming up with ideas. Because when you just put students in Scratch and ask them to build a project, it's really hard because there's all sorts of things that you can do. But by constraining the ask and saying, okay, you're going to tell a story with these characters that you've selected and this backdrop and this sort of problem that's going on, students are able to better formulate a story. And so what they're learning there is they're learning those narrative elements, they're learning storytelling. And then there's also a lot of computational thinking that's going into it. So in particular, in this Gumball project, students have to sequence code between two sprites, which requires a lot of computational thinking. It's relatively abstract when you have to think, this character is saying something, they have to wait, and we have another character saying something, and they have to wait while the other character is talking. And then there's a bunch of programming things in there too. It introduces procedures, which is a really important computer science concept.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I know lots of times, and we'll get a little bit specific, how did you approach the commercial content? I mean, if folks do see all of our other themes, including our other standalone activity, those were ideas that we've made up in some capacity or other. I mean, it might have been inspired by Scratch, but it's not interlaced with the Gumball content. And, I think folks will be interested to know, like, why Gumball, and what we saw is like, how's the best way to integrate with that?
So I think I even personally underestimated how much students loved having the connection to Cartoon Network. Like, we went out and tested the tutorial after we made it, and we were like, oh, it's this connection with the amazing world of Gumball. Like, the kids were like, yeah, this is amazing. So there was immediate buy-in with all the students. And it draws a stronger connection to animation. So you can give students a project and tell them that they're going to animate something and create a story, but when you really tie it into animation that they actually see or on TV regularly, it's just a stronger motivation. There's a lot more buy-in there for students.
And I think too, and my son, I have a 4th grade boy, and remind me, were you teaching 6th graders when you all piloted that recently?
Yes, 6th graders.
6th graders. So we've targeted, and you'll even see it on code.org, that we're targeting the Gumball episode and project more to 6th to 8th grade, because there is this level of difficulty, which I think is important to talk about with the Gumball project. But also there's this kind of fun sense of humor that's right in that sweet spot of, maybe really savvy 4th graders, but definitely that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. So it's a lot of fun in that respect. And I think, Matt, we've touched upon it again, but just for teachers, especially those who've never done CS First, I want to emphasize again, how do you recommend that they should determine if this hour of code activity is successful, quote unquote? We got questions last year of like, hey, how do I know if they did it? How do I grade it? How do I look at it? What are your recommendations there for us?
That's a great question. So Jen, you shared a slide earlier that talked about like perseverance and confidence and that type of thing. And so I think as a teacher, you need to recognize that that's really what the hour of code is about. Students aren't going to learn a whole lot of programming in just an hour, but they can learn that computer science is something that they can do, that's something that they're interested in. So or at least what we want students to come away from with the hour of code is a project that they're proud of, which usually means that they have a working project. And in this case, after the 2nd video, they'll have some dialogue with the character. And after the 3rd video, they'll have 2 characters that are talking and possibly have a glitch built in. So just 3 videos in, and students should have what I would consider a successful project. And at least in our testing, students also thought it was successful.
Great. All right, I want to jump in a little bit before we get too far along, because we've got more Q&A, but I've got a couple more slides. I wanted to show folks this video. This is the very first video for the Gumball project. We're going to take a minute and take a look at it. So.
Welcome. I'm Kumar, a computer scientist and program manager at Google. In this collaboration between CS First and Cartoon Network, you create an animated story based on the Amazing World of Gumball TV series. The series tells the story of 12-year-old Gumball Watterson and his brother, Darwin. You will create your own version of an episode called The Signal, in which the characters experience a glitch. Check out a clip from that episode.
What? Just trying on hats. I feel like my look is missing a little something.
Dude, your luck is missing everything except shoes.
Exactly. Step 1, shoes. Step 2, hat.
Step 2 isn't hat. And for the record, step 1 is pants.
What do you think?
Nah, I think it's a bit.
You're right. Too desperate for attention. Ooh, how about this?
Yeah, that one makes it look kind of.
Yeah, I get it. Too thinking it's cool, but lonely at school.
What just happened?
How about this?
Yeah, that one makes it look.
Yeah, too Canadian. I really like this one, but do you think it makes me look like I have a fat head?
Okay, I won't go any further, and apologies to any Canadians that were on the call with us.
We do have a couple. We have someone from BC.
I know we have some.
No, but I was just telling the chat, I was freaking out because I thought like 3 times that the Hangout was glitching. So it's so good, and it's something that like immediately connects with kids for sure.
Oh yeah, my son loves to make something glitch, so who knew? You'll see here, and every, I want to emphasize again, this is really a taste as to what everything in Google CS First is like. So once you've gone through one club or even one lesson, there's a familiarity that's going to come back from the facilitator teacher point of view that I think is just really comforting coming from the non-tech parent who's been in the room with these kids. We always have this overview. We always have these instructions that pertain to what's going on for that particular step. You click on the starter link project and that will take them directly to Scratch, and they can sign in. For the particular one-off activities, they can use existing Scratch usernames and passwords that the students might have, but we are going to talk about a way that you guys can go ahead and get them CS First usernames and passwords, and we'll jump into that in just a minute. Let me jump back to our slides here because I want to actually show you a finished project of what a student has already done, as I said, who's discovered this. So give me 1 second as my plugin has to come in, and let's see. So this is a pretty fun little project here, and let's see if I can get it. I'm going to do it big. And there we have it. Yay! I love that this student used every sprite or character.
Can you really have a story without a T-Rex, Jennifer? I mean,
I know. Listen, The Amazing World of Gumball is now my sequel to what the Animaniacs were, and that's really dating myself. Anyway, we won't jump into it, but I mean, it's pretty creative. The kids are going to have so much fun, and you can just see some of the coding. Like, look at the coding that this one student has done. So you can imagine the time that's gone in for this, but how exciting that is for them to kind of be thinking in these terms and these layers. We're super excited, and the last I checked, Matt, I can't remember the last number, but we had like, what, about 75 projects already for Gumball and CS First?
Yeah, at least, I think, yeah. There's a lot have come in.
Yes, and we are hoping, Cartoon Network and CS First are hoping to find ways to feature a lot of these projects in studios online. So, you know, stay tuned for that. We really want to thank Cartoon Network. We might have a few folks from Cartoon Network listening, and we just are so excited because I can emphasize with Matt, like, kids are so excited. I was visiting a school in South LA, and when I was like, hey, anyone ever watch Amazing World of Gumball? And when I told them this was our project, they were just ecstatic. So you can definitely see the buy-in. You can definitely see the buy-in. But we might want to talk about like how teachers can get involved. And I think that's really important because we wanted to be able to get this out. And this was a lesson learned from last year, was we need to get our content out to teachers sooner. So thank you to EdTechTeam for making this happen today. What we've done for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and this is just for teachers, is we've created this bar on our website. You'll see it. It says Teacher Sneak Preview. If you go and click on that, it will take you directly to the teacher starting page where you can follow the easy instructions to not only try out the Gumball coding adventure for yourself, which I always recommend doing. Look at the lesson plans, see the instructional videos for students. But what we're really excited about with CS First for this hour of code is that we're giving teachers the opportunity to have a light experience creating a CS First club, which means you won't have to do a schedule. We don't have printed materials, but you can go in and actually create a club, select your location, see what a club dashboard looks like with the steps. You can actually give students what we call a club code, which is created when you select the theme, create the club. You can name your club like Mrs. Smith's first period class. You can create another club, Mrs. Fish's second period class, that type of thing. And once the students have that unique club, the students in that first period class will be assigned a username and password, which they can use with any CS First lesson. So if you were considering doing this but weren't sure, you might want to try it in the spring with a whole 8-day format. But hey, this is a great way to try it. And if you already run CS First clubs, and this is just another great way to keep your students' projects. And then beyond that, we will have student stats, which normally populates the student username and password, which, by the way, is not their Gmail accounts or anything like that. It's actually a randomized username and password that the CS First site will assign them. And we know that's a pain point, but that's for their privacy since many of them are under 13. So we've also created a drop-down where you can add the student's name next to their username and password, which can, if you want to grade this, we do have teachers talk about that, or want to check in on their students' progress. That's a great way to do that. And we can explore that a little bit more. But anyway, that's one of our main features that we're just super excited about. So I think when we look at the next one, when we're talking about the final thoughts before we go into Q&A, and we've got about 20 minutes, so I'm thrilled that we're right on time for the most part. Here are the calls to action. We're hoping to reach at least 100,000 students with Hour of Code. So we hope you'll consider visiting CS First and setting up clubs. But if not, just have the kids try any number of projects. We just want them out there enjoying something great. They can try the project without starting a club, easily visiting code.org or just visiting our site. You can see the project right here. We encourage teachers to have a little fun too. Why should the kids get to have all the fun? So feel free to get together, maybe at a faculty meeting. You can inspire some of your colleagues who have never coded before to try it. So we've got that link there. If you have more questions, we have a Google CS First product forum. We are answering questions there as team members. A lot of us have been in the classroom. Sometimes you'll get Matt or even our head engineer who's building the code behind the content that you see. So feel free to pose a question there, but we're getting more and more teachers, and you all know better than we do how this content can be flexible and work in the classroom. And we're loving awarding those expert answers to teachers. So if you're so inspired and you use CS First a lot, come and answer a few questions. And absolutely, if you have a question, please post it. Finally, we want to encourage you to join the EdTechTeam global community. We go there for questions and answers, and we love the conversation that happens there. And then finally, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I kind of carry on the mantra for CS First on Twitter. And of course, Google for EDU, Cartoon Network. If you're interested in Gumball specific or EdTechTeam, you can find us all on Twitter. With that, I'm going to stop presenting, and hopefully we can take a few more questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thanks so much.
Do you have any live ones before I go to some that I pulled from?
Totally. Yeah. Let's. I had a few come up, and if I don't say yours, everyone in the back channel, please feel free to bring it back up to the front if it got pushed down. But really great examples coming along. When Matt was talking about computational thinking and literacy, obviously, but we had a couple questions come in about. Tim Ryan asked about historical storytelling, and Lori shared examples of, using maps of a Northeast colony and then coding folks coding to go through the map. Someone else shared a mission project. So I imagine even with like Gumball and talking about using that, you can integrate so many other disciplines as well. Matt or Jennifer, do you guys have any other ideas around different curricular areas like history or math? It's accessible for, across the curriculum, but any other specific ideas to throw in?
I know for me personally, and I jumped in since I had my mic on. I was actually in South LA this past week in Linwood, California, and two things I thought were interesting. One, a young girl, a fifth grader who is an ELL learner, said that she actually uses storytelling in her Google CS First to help her with her dialogue and punctuation when she's learning English. And I thought that was a pretty amazing back pathway. So I think that's an interesting concept there. I've actually had English teachers tell me they use it for creative writing and a way for project integration and to use STEM, but to kind of and see students in a different way. I had one English teacher tell me it's actually changed. Seeing her students in CS First is changing how she's approaching them and finding ways to teach them. So I think from that standpoint, it's been pretty interesting. I've also seen one school partner with another school, a US school partnered with a school in London 2 years ago, and use the Friends themes to kind of interview each other. You may or may not know, and this gets into broader CS First access, but we are integrated with Google Classroom. So you could make assignments, you could use Google Docs and, have classes from different regions if you wanted to do social studies or something like that, interviewing each other and then building projects. So there's a great integration there. Matt?
Oh, that's perfect. You answered someone's question, which Ease in Tech asked, why can't we integrate with Classroom? And Jennifer says, we can.
If you look in the bottom right, if you look in the bottom right corner, you should see, of CS First, you'll see a little classroom icon there.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for telling us how to access that for sure. There was a question about sign-in. I know you shared with us the auto-generated name. Someone asked, is there ability for G Suite for Education logins in the future?
Not at this time, and I wish I had a better answer, and unfortunately we don't. I know that means just one more username and password for students to remember, and for teachers to remember. So hopefully being able at least to add the name menu and column in student stats will help teachers at least keep up with it from that standpoint. I do want to emphasize here best tips and practices around that. You have to use the same device and the same browser because they're only saved on the local server. You won't be able to save them in the open source format and online that way. And that's just, that's unfortunately the way it is right now, but we hear it every time we get feedback like that. It helps us. As far as teachers, and that reminds me, we did have one question from the spreadsheet where I think it was asked if teachers needed Gmail accounts. You do not. You can use any type of email account you want to, and it's really just to connect when you get like a Google Plus one account type of thing, and it'll ask you to create an account. And when you do that, and it takes about 5 or 10 minutes to actually create this CS First profile that's attached to an email, it will default to a Gmail, but it'll say underneath that in blue, I'd like to use another email address. Click on that, and you can put in at yahoo.com, at mac.com, at anydistrict.com, or what have you.
Awesome.
I'm going to go back and ask Matt, because he is our resident teacher as well as content creator. Matt, what other innovations have you seen as far as working in other subjects or finding other ways for teachers to use this?
So a lot of the projects you can adapt to whatever need you have. And so one of the ways that you can do this is you can look through a theme like storytelling, and you can look at the lesson plans and see the example projects that students build. So for example, activity 2 of storytelling is about dialogue, but characters can have dialogue about anything. So you can say, connect this to a project that you're doing in history, where 2 characters have a dialogue. So maybe there are 2 historical characters now that have a dialogue, and they have a dialogue about some sort of historical event. So there are definitely ways to adapt it. I would also recommend checking out the Scratch Ed community if you want more direct tie-ins, because there are all sorts of educators there that can also provide suggestions.
Kind of speaking of that, and I was one of these folks, I still am at times, what do you recommend to a teacher who is not familiar or confident working in Scratch?
I recommend using CS First. So we designed CS First so that it could be used by any teacher. It uses a blended model where you don't need to be a content expert. You actually don't need to know anything about Scratch to start. We do provide a ton of resources to make you more comfortable, one of which are solution sheets, which are they're linked on the lesson plans, but it shows you all of the code that students build in each video, as well as the steps that they need to follow to build that code. So if you're walking around trying to help students, it just gives you something where you can visually check real fast. But again, don't need to be a content expert. Sometimes the best thing to do is say, I don't know, let's figure it out. Or I don't know, why don't you ask somebody sitting near you? What a lot of teachers do is they find an expert in the classroom who then takes ownership and walks around. So especially if you're in a class where students have a list of 5 things that they do when they finish early, maybe one of those things is be the first student to do the hour of code activity for Gumball. Then while you're teaching the Gumball activity, that student can be the one that walks around and helps other people.
Awesome, great guys. We did have somebody share using a spreadsheet to organize usernames too. So lots of different strategies. Feel free to drop in any other strategies or curricular tie-ins, folks, in the back channel. We did have a question around assessment. So we just looked into different curricular areas. Do either of you have any good tips, or the back channel, on the best way to, once you're tying this into your curriculum, how to assess maybe their mastery or moving towards some of these content areas?
So a lot of what we see around assessment is around accountability for students. So not setting it up where you're assessing whether or not students learned the programming concepts, but where you set up like a checklist, which is, for the Gumball, it could be like, do you have 2 characters? Did you select a setting? Do the 2 characters talk to each other? And is there a glitch that interrupts the story? And so a checklist like that will help make sure that students know what's expected of them during the activity. They understand what the outcome is. But at least for an hour activity, you may not want to have a specific programming assessment, like what does this block do, that type of thing. Again, it's around building confidence. So generally for 1 hour, I'd recommend something like a checklist, or maybe even a rubric like somebody's recommending.
Matt, and I know you have studied this in lots of different ways, even when we were developing content all along. How can we align to statewide standards or Common Core when CS First wasn't intended for that, and we tried to stay clear of that so that it can be broad-based use across the world?
So a lot of teachers do find a lot of alignment, especially with the ELA standards and Common Core. Common Core doesn't have any technology standards or computing standards. So most of the time when folks are trying to align with Common Core, they use the English Language Arts standards, which our curriculum does a pretty good job at aligning with, although we don't explicitly align it ourselves.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, guys. Really great examples coming in. Lori shared a video reflection to explain what they did and how it worked to get that kind of justification skills in for sure. Great idea, says Aaron as well. Rubrics, Google Forms, student evaluation. So Scott says using self-evaluation as well. These are all really, really great tips for sure. We did get a question in, and this may be the community can share too. There's a lot of folks who have already used CS First, but just getting started, says Joel Soames, you know, time commitment per day. Somebody shared in the chat that sometimes maybe the hour can be hard to fit in. Any tips around, obviously just getting into the Gumball activity is a great first start. Any other tips for getting going from both the community watching and Jennifer and Matt?
I can say we heard that loud and clear early on. I guess for almost a year now, we tweaked our scheduling feature as you set up a club so that teachers can actually select day one, but they don't have to select every day forward, and it doesn't have to be an hour. That way teachers can say like, hey, I have a half hour here, and then 2 days later they're gonna have free time again, and we'll finish up the other half hour there. That kind of alleviates that and gives more flexibility around that. And I think a lot of teachers have found that to be useful. Matt, do you have more suggestions?
No, I mean, that sounds like a great suggestion. I mean, I would definitely recommend starting and ending each class with the whole class being together. So, students might come in and they might start working, but just take a second and say, okay, so this is what we're working on today. This is where I expect you to be at the end of class. And then at the end of class, wrapping that up, saying, all right, so what did we work on today? What did you learn? What was challenging? Who helped you out? Do you want to give a shout out to anybody whose projects that you saw? Give students a chance to share their projects with each other. So even if you are splitting it across days, just take a minute to come back together and talk about what students learned and what they're working on.
And that structure that Matt just explained is actually in one single lesson plan. Just realize if you're splitting it up into 2 different times, you might want to replicate that, each time.
Awesome. Oh man, more great ideas. Stacy says checking student work is having students take a screenshot of their coding box and upload it to Google Classroom. Really great ideas.
Yeah, and how many times do we all need to just use a screenshot, whether we're going to be computer scientists or not? So kids need to learn their way around technology. I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Awesome. Well, get any other questions you need, guys, in the chat right now. But did you want to take a peek into the spreadsheet to see if there's any other big ones we're missing, Jennifer?
Let me pull that up quickly, and let's see if I can find it. Where did I? Here it is. Let's see. Let's see if you can come up. Wow, you weren't kidding when you said we jumped incredibly fast. Matt, anything while I'm searching, anything else you can think to add? Are there any questions for brand new, never have used CS First, but are interested in maybe doing a club at some point for Hour of Code, and just have any questions still about just how to get started?
So one of the things I would recommend to teachers the first time they run it is to focus on helping the students learn a format where they watch a video, then build in a project. Because the first time students use CS First, if you have a class of 30 students, you're probably going to have like 2 or 3 students that are going to have a hard time watching a video, then building something, then watching a video. So just walking around and making sure that students understand that the videos are describing steps that the students have to complete. I think at least like the first time you run it, that's probably something you're going to run into and something to be aware of.
Awesome.
I did just have someone ask about the breadth of the age group, and I normally go into a little bit more detail about that. We initially have set up CS First to target 4th through 8th grade. However, as we all know, once kids are reading and learning to write, they have already been using technology. They can drag and drop in this world. And even my son, as a second semester, second grader, all of his classmates did CS first as a pilot. Now they did storytelling. They weren't going anywhere beyond that, but it got them going. By third grade, we absolutely see an engagement level that works if there's the facility, just being able to read and write some. And then I think for those students who have never had any computer science, we have seen in South LA, working with a high school to get 9th and 10th graders ready in Inglewood for AP Computer Science principles and AP Computer Science, but they didn't have anywhere to start. I personally thought that the material would be too juvenile for them. They loved the music and sound club because they could actually, I mean, it's a great way for that age group. They connect with their music. So that was a great way to get them started and let them block code first and learn those basic principles. I don't care what you're doing in C++, JavaScript, what have you. I mean, Matt and the team have built in beautiful ways to exhibit randomness and looping and sequencing and so many other important computer science concepts. And so that was able to be taught to them. They could engage with game design. They went to sports, social media, and a lot of them then went on to animation because then it became more challenging. And by the way, if you're looking for extra help, I should suggest we are hearing of high schools now letting the math and science clubs become the mentors in after-school clubs for feeder elementary and middle school. So it's a great way to create mentorship and leadership, not only for the high school students, it's a great college, concept, but it's just a great way to get back in the community too.
Oh, that's great, Jennifer, thanks. To piggyback on that, how about differentiating if you have levels within the same class, in terms of if you have experienced coders, beyond letting them maybe be that mentor, any other ideas in how you could differentiate within classrooms for advanced versus new?
Matt?
So, yeah, we tried really hard to design all the projects so the projects themselves are differentiated. So teachers don't necessarily have to differentiate among projects, but within one project, it's going to be appropriate for students of different skill levels and interests. And so when you look at the Gumball activity, for example, a beginning student, somebody who's never coded before, should have no problem getting through the first 3 videos, and even beyond that. But a student that's more advanced, like the example that Jen showed earlier, that student was clearly experienced, like they have clearly done that before. But they were able to use the same project. They were able to apply other things that we didn't recommend. We have add-ons at the end of each activity, which help students differentiate even more. So they can say, oh, I'm interested in gamifying the story. So there's an add-on where students can use the arrow keys to move the characters. So we tried really, really hard to make sure that teachers don't have to differentiate among projects, that it's differentiated within the project.
Yeah, and I would say for an after-school club, we actually mixed 3rd through 5th graders. And in the very beginning of the clubs, the 5th graders, of course, were the leaders. But about halfway through, it was pretty amazing. These 4th and 3rd graders started creating code or discovering things in Scratch that the 5th grader was then excited about. And I was like, hey, how'd you do that? Come show me. Can you imagine the 3rd grader's chest that puffs up as he walks forward to help the 5th grader? I mean, it is such a confidence booster. And then afterwards, we would see it on the play yard at my son's school, where an older student would run up to a younger student and say, hey, I had a problem doing CS first this weekend, and they're solving it together. And I just think it's a great, it mirrors what we're doing in technology in the corporate space now at places like Google. So I loved seeing that collaboration. One thing that I do want to point out, it's some best tips if you're looking at employing beyond Gumball and looking to do a club in the future. As I said, we have all those themes. We don't recommend, ordering all 8 themes and letting kids pick. One, I would pull my hair out as a facilitator because on any given day they could be working on different things, and that could be confusing. It also is really hard to focus. I think if one student sees someone ahead who's working on another project, hey, I want to do that, or what, it's just too hard to collaborate. So we recommend one theme, or if you want to divide the class in half and let them, do 2 things and then swap, that works well. But we haven't seen multiple things work well, although people do try it. Matt, do you have anything more to add there? Nope.
You did it pretty good, Jennifer. Awesome, guys. Well, we are at the hour, and I'm so stoked we took the whole hour. I mean, there's still great examples and questions coming in. So if your question wasn't answered today, we really encourage you can tweet at J Vadenbarth directly for Jennifer if you have any questions. And we do hope that you create some Gumball adventures and share them on the hashtag CS1st. And hopefully we have a mini community going on there. Come hang out in the Google Plus community with us at EdTechTeam, and stay in touch, everyone, for sure. Somebody did ask, just as a final sneak peek, Jennifer, is there other partnerships and fun stuff in store in the future with different content and cartoons and other sort of fun entry-level activities like this?
I can definitely tell you that folks have already been bragging about it, and we have been contacted by other big name brands. We will always explore it on a case-by-case basis, so maybe.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I think as Matt mentioned, seeing things that people know and love make it so much more accessible, and seeing it move and making them feel empowered is super special. Folks, if you're watching, you can access this archive right here on this very page, on the YouTube page. I will be trying to archive the chat because it's so chock full of good examples, but I'll see what I can catch. You can't quite, it's not easy to capture all of this, so I think I can textually grab everything. I'll give it a go. And we'll also email this out. If you came late, again, you can grab this presentation at edtech.team/ Gumball code 1. Please take these slides and go back through, use the links, get involved in Gumball for sure. I am going to give away our copy right now of If I Were a Wizard by Paul Hamilton from EdTechTeam Press. So I have a very scientific method to make sure that it's from all of you who spent your awesome time with us today, and it is just scrolling and closing my eyes. So let's try to grab somebody. Our winner is Margaret Agbawo. Awesome. I'll ping you your email to get a copy of that to inspire you for kids coding. I'll pick one more because you guys are so amazing. Shoot, you know, it's not showing me the whole text, so I don't have a lot of hope that this will archive the whole chat, but we'll see. And then Michael Lutjen, you also get a copy of If I Were a Wizard. And then also one Raspberry Pi. I've got to do more coding with. We've got Katie Paul. So 3 fun prizes today. Obviously, the biggest prize, hopefully, was meeting Jennifer and Matt and getting inspired. And both of you, just seeing you walk through and show how easy it is, it did worlds for me. And I hope the same for all of our community members today. So big round of applause for Matt and Jennifer. It's really awesome for you to spend this outreach time with our community. And we can't wait to see what else comes. So thanks for joining us today.
Code and celebrate CSEd week in December. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you very much.